What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. As always, I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for showing support. And thank you guys for showing love on every single episode. I have a guest with me today, John Scafiddi.
Yes, sir.
He has been on one of my favorite podcasts, the Journey Podcast.
Shout out to The Journey.
Shout out to The Journey. But the reason why I wanted to have you come on, bro, is because there was a lot of things that you said that I really resonated with. And I felt like we kind of knew each other before I even met you.
Yeah. It's top tier compliment, so I appreciate you.
Of course, brother. Of course. I really want to know. I kind of really want to start this off. Yeah. Obviously, I'll let you introduce yourself to the people.
Oh yeah, my name is John Scafiddi Jr. I'm from South Brooklyn. I'm a creative director, founder of a clothing brand called AtWar. Would like to get. I don't want to call myself a podcaster just yet. You know, I've been hopping on a bunch of pods. I'm very appreciative to all of them. Thank you for having me. For real, it means a lot.
Of course.
And yeah, that's really it. Just a creative, vulnerable, transparent dude. You know what I'm saying? Nothing that I guess the people don't already know from if they watched any of the pods. You know what I'm saying?
So you're a kid from Brooklyn.
Yes, sir.
But I really want to start this off as your childhood.
Yeah.
There was something that in that I really wanted to dive and really go into that.
Okay, let's do it.
What was your childhood like as a kid, and what was your experience like?
I grew up in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Bay Ridge, in an Italian household. Both of my parents. Shout out to my mom and dad. I went to Catholic school my entire life. Played sports my entire life. For the first 18 years of my life, I would say I lived a pretty much normal childhood. Going to elementary school, playing sports, and then going to high school and playing sports, and whatever the case may be. My parents wound up getting divorced when I was like 20, and then I had gone through my first breakup at the same time. So I don't really have much negative to say about my childhood from a growing up standpoint. My parents did the best that they could. We grew up middle class. You know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people here like private school, Catholic school, and they automatically think, okay, like, you know what I mean? It's not really like that. It's definitely obviously better than public school, whatever the case may be. But I don't really have much of a negative thing to say about how I was brought up. My parents always wanted me to be open and honest, always talk about the shit that we're going through. My father did 11 years in prison before I was born. So not that he didn't like make that presence known when I was a kid, but there were obviously very little things. Like he was very strict on what time you coming home, or when the lights got to go out, or like what we eating for dinner, or whatever the case may be. So from that perspective, it was probably a little rough. He was a light sleeper, couldn't sneak in and out of the house. Like, you know what I mean? The TV couldn't be too loud, like whatever. But, as far as my childhood, bro, I don't really have too much negative to say about it. It definitely was always positive for the most part, until probably got a little bit into my adulthood, like after 20s and all that. You know what I'm saying?
So a lot of the things that you, in terms of, speaking, your parents influence that, speaking how, the things that are brought up.
Yeah.
That definitely probably affected you in those relationships.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because like, my relationship with my dad is an interesting one, because growing up, I wanted to be a professional fighter, and he was my trainer. Until he couldn't take me where he wanted me to go anymore. Like eventually he was like, yo, we gotta go find you a professional trainer. And at that time, I had also just started dating somebody who knew me as a fighter. Right? So and we spoke about this before, but when I blew my knee out and realized I wasn't going to be a fighter anymore, it ruined 2 relationships. It ruined my relationship with my father, because that's what he thought that I was going to do, and that's really like where our connection started, but also ruined the relationship that I was in with whoever I was with at the time, because she only knew me as this person, and I wasn't that person anymore. And it affected those 2 relationships heavily. It didn't really affect my relationship with my mom. Actually, my relationship with my mom got a lot closer after they got divorced and after I stopped fighting, and I hold that real close to me. Not that we weren't close growing up, she's my mother, but we got really close after that. You know what I'm saying? And it affected some of my relationships. Seeing my parents, this is not necessarily like the biggest knock on my father. I mean, of course it is. I just say that to preface. We don't really speak, right? Because I'm sure he watches this shit. My father was the greatest father and the worst husband, right? And I never wanted that to be me. I'm a monogamous person. Yeah. I just want to, you know what I'm saying? So growing up, seeing that and not really being able to separate the two when you're a kid, like you know what I mean? Like your dad's your dad, so it's like at the end of the day, I'm a man, he's a man, like that's my guy, you know what I mean? And then going up and seeing like the mistakes that he would make, that I'm sure that he would own up to now, in the relationship, being a terrible husband but also being a good father, that also affected our relationship much later, because then I started to resent him a little bit for it, not for nothing, to be as honest as I can. And it definitely affected our relationship in that sense, because I never wanted to be that. And when I started to do that to women, I started to really hate myself, because I became my father, and I never wanted to become my father. You know what I mean? I never wanted to cheat. I never wanted to be verbally abusive or get angry or not understand or be closed-minded when it came to women and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And when I started to feel myself losing who I was, actually, I thought I was finding who I was. I thought I was finding that I'm my father. You know what I mean? And that's what I deal with now as we speak. Trying not to be the guy that, not that he is a bad person. That's a great person. He was a great father. Yeah. Just a terrible husband. And I just want to be both. I want to be a great father, and I want to be a great husband. And trying to learn from the mistakes of that type of shit. Because my mother's an angel. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's really what that, as far as that's concerned.
Did that perception of seeing him do all these things, be a bad husband, did that kind of affect your perception on a relationship?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Because then, like, at first you probably think that's normal. Right? So, like, you're going to take that into your relationships and think that, like, all that is all fine and dandy when it's not. And when you start to realize that it's not, then you really start to extra resent him or whoever it happens to be. It just so happened to be him for me. But, bro, not for nothing, like, looking across all of my family, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, I don't think I have a lot of aunts and uncles that are still married, now that I think about it. You know what I mean? Like, with who they had their children with or who they were, you know what I mean? So not for nothing, I love my family. I'm the closest I'm very close with my aunts. To just be around it all in general, around toxic relationships as far as romantically is concerned, it definitely and looking, this is all in retrospect. In the moment, I didn't realize any of that shit. You know what I mean? But in retrospect, 100%.
Did kind of the way that you are in the since we're on that topic, you talk about how you when you love, and when you're locked in and you want to say what's going on, it affects your relationships.
Yeah, of course. Just because I don't know how to live in a gray area, bro. Everything is very black and white for me. Everything is like I'm either on it or I'm not. Especially in romantic relationships. And that could be a lot of pressure on the other side, because somebody else could feel the same way about you, but not be as open about it or not be as vulnerable about it because they've been hurt before or whatever the case may be, And for me, I was never able to resonate with that, because when I feel you and I want to let you know it. And a lot of people are reserved in that sense, because the first time they probably let somebody know it, it backfired on them. And that's exactly what happened to me. But for some reason, I was never able to become that cold, shut-off person. I've always been this open person, no matter what's ever happened to me. I've just always been open as long as, like, we connected. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, like, I feel like we're all puzzle pieces. And some people fit your puzzle perfect. And they're scared to put those puzzle pieces in, or vice versa, and they're scared to take that piece and insert it into their picture, because, like, what happens when that picture is full now? You get to enjoy it, and, like, there's nothing else. What do we get to start on another picture? There's no other picture. This is your life. You know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of people, when they mesh well with somebody or they feel like this is their person, they start to get a little bit scared, because they're like, oh shit, the last time I felt like this, it backfired on me, or I was open and honest with somebody and it backfired on me. I don't want to do that again. For me, that never happened. I don't know why. I just always have been, whenever I feel it. It's backfired on me plenty of times since then. You know what I mean? So, but I never stopped.
I think that's such a beautiful thing, though. Just because it's like, when that no gray area, right? There's a lot of people that are in that gray area.
For their whole lives. I can't do it.
Where it's a part of them is so afraid of opening up and afraid of being that authentic person. They have to be this,
I hate it,
this future-esque or this cold person, when in reality, that's not who they are.
100%. Yo, I said this before. It's like, and this goes in like to a social media thing, but this is just really in general. If you put on this skin like you're playing Fortnite, okay, and fucking you start to have success in this skin that's not you, do you know how fucking annoying it's gonna be for you to fucking be like, oh shit, this is what worked, but that's not necessarily me. Maybe part of it is, right? But it's not fully me. And now this is what worked. I have to be this skin for the rest of my career or the rest of my relationship or the rest of whatever the case may be. Bro, I can only imagine how exhausting that is. You know what I mean? Not being yourself, succeeding by not being yourself and having to do that for an extended period of time because that's what's working. At some point, that shit is going to crash and burn and it's just not going to work, bro. So that's a lot.
Do you struggle with self-acceptance?
Yes.
Like, do you struggle with, because sometimes when I was listening, to that episode and the episode before that, it seems like you haven't forgiven yourself.
Yeah.
From when I listen, that's how I perceive it. When I because you loved and it's like, well, you worded it as, oh, I built a home in this person. Yeah. And then you're like, fuck, I just did the cycle. I did the cycle.
Bro, I did it over and over
again. And you did over and over again, but
and I never you're right. I never forget.
To break that cycle from an outside perspective looking in, I feel like there might have to be a little bit of like, damn, like I need to forgive myself.
Yeah, well, nothing changes if nothing changes. Right?
That is true.
So you're right 100%. Am I the hardest on myself when it comes to stuff like that? Yeah. I feel for people so bad that if I've ever hurt somebody, I feel it extra because I hate being the villain in somebody else's story, right?
Why?
I just because I care about what other people think about me. Unfortunately, it's one of the worst qualities that I have, that I really, really fuel myself on the validation of other people instead of fueling myself on the validation of myself. And that's something that I've struggled with for a really long time, especially like we were talking about before, social media and comparing yourself to people and comparing myself to my friends. Like, bro, listen, as blunt as I could possibly be, I have 3 best friends that I've grown up with since I'm 15 years old, right? 2 of them are about to get married. They all got careers 10 years before me. I've been comparing myself to them forever. You know what I mean? And where I'm at, this is the first time in my life that I'm not fully like connected to somebody. I'm single. Mm-hmm. I have this clean slate where I'm like you said, like I'm trying to forgive myself for all the past mistakes that I've made with anybody. It doesn't just have to be women. It could be anything. But for the most part, where I'm at right now, it's with women. And I really, really try to fucking hone. Right now, I'm really, really trying to hone in on myself and forgive myself. It's the way that you worded it. I never really looked at it like that. And just like start fresh. Learn, like, because I lost myself during all of this. I wasn't myself, like whatever that was. Like I was real reserved, which would induce my anxiety because I felt like I'm not being myself, and it just really came from trying to get validation from other people. Most of the time, getting it from other women, because when it comes to like macho-y macho or like alpha, I'm fine with that. I know that I could turn that on, and I know that I could turn that off. So I'm not really too concerned about, what men think about when they see my videos. And I'm talking about, I don't want to be an alpha with my girl when I don't have to be. I get jokes from my boys all the time about it, and I don't really care because I know what it is. But for some reason, whenever it came to women, I was just not always insecure, but always seeking validation from them. And if you didn't give it to me, then like we just wouldn't be as dialed in as I wanted, and I would probably hurt you by accident, not on purpose. You'd be like a casualty to my insecurity because you wouldn't fulfill my validation. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to find that validation inside instead of finding it from other people. I'm still working on that. I'm not there yet. I'm working on it, but I'm not there.
Do you feel like there was a lack of validation between maybe did your mom give you validation?
Yes, she did. And maybe in the beginning, when I stopped boxing, my parents definitely didn't understand it. Because what had happened was, and I understand looking back in retrospect, the timing of what it looked like was that when I stopped fighting, not only did I get hurt, but I had just met the girl that I was dating, right? And from the outside looking in, it probably looked like that typical scenario where he gets cuffed up, he loses himself, he puts on all this weight, and he stops doing everything that he was doing before. That wasn't the case because I fucked my knee up and mentally I was never the same person again. But I know what it looked like from the outside looking in. So I know that At that point, my parents didn't understand it. It's not that they didn't give me validation, but I was just in this crossroads of my life. Actually, my parents gave me a lot of validation because they let me drop out of college, let me go and fucking try to be a fighter, whatever the case may be. So they gave me that. I think the lack of validation came from, and I hate to always talk about her, and I don't ever want to talk about her again because she's nothing. But from that first relationship that I was in from 19 to 22, she left me because I wanted to fucking move forward with a career that didn't necessarily have the most promise at the time, and I didn't get validation for her for it. It was like, all right, well, I'm leaving you. My father had just offered me 30 days before that to go into the union full book. Full book means no apprentice. Full book means a company sponsors you. You get paid as if you've been on the job for 20 years, and they teach you as you go, and you got an in. You basically buy a book or whatever, you know what I mean? And I denied that because I didn't want to do that. And she was looking for, at the time, something more steady, more, let's get married in 3-4 years to start saving your money. I'm working in a fucking Mexican restaurant delivering fucking food, and then working in a pizzeria delivering pizza, working on my dreams. I never got validation from her. That's where I think it stemmed from. It never really stemmed from my upbringing. You know what I'm saying? My parents always kind of understood who I was, knew that I was like, bro, people will make jokes like, look at him, I know what he looks like, but he's a big teddy bear, like, yada yada. One of my parents never really faulted me for anything that I did. Most part, the only time where I ever felt like, and I know my mother will watch this, and I love you, Ma, was when I stopped boxing. I think they didn't understand it. They understood it now. I talk to my mother about it all the time. She's like, I'm glad that you don't do that shit no more. You know what I mean? I don't want to see you get punched in the face or punch other people in the face. But that was the only time where I felt like maybe they didn't understand it. So maybe they weren't validating what I was going through because they couldn't understand it. But besides that, it definitely came from relationships for sure. Which is, it's a lot.
Have you been able to find that within building homes in yourself, and I don't know how long that episode was, but have you started to build a house within yourself?
I'm working on it. Right now I'm working on it because I went through that process of like being in a relationship and getting hurt about it, and then jumping into another one, and then that not working, and jumping into this one, and then that not working, and going back into this and that and that. And I finally recognized it to the point where I'm at now, where it's like, all right, John, slow down. Take everything slow. Live in the moment. Be like this light and free kind of person when it comes to people, right? Don't always be this I'm on or I'm off kind of guy. I right now where I'm at, bro, is I'm trying to paint that house gray. I'm trying to live in a gray area right now. The house has always been like black or white. It's always been like this solid color. It's either I love you or I hate you, for lack of better terms. And where I'm at right now is both of those houses are gone. I'm not trying to repaint the house because that doesn't work. Imagine trying to paint gray over black. Imagine trying to paint gray over white. It's just going to be a lighter shade of gray or a darker shade of gray. I had to start from scratch. I had to start fresh, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm working on building my house within myself, and then hopefully inviting the right person into it instead of building that house inside somebody else and hoping that they allow me into it. Like, imagine that, you know what I'm saying? Building a house inside somebody else and then hoping that you're allowed into that house. I don't want to do that shit no more. I need to build a house for myself with inside myself, and hopefully invite the right person in. Like, I saw a quote the other day that really changed my life, bro. It was a crazy fucking quote. It was, if you chase butterflies, they're gonna fly away. But if you build a beautiful garden, they're gonna come to you. And bro, I cried like a baby, bro. I swear to God, bro. I read that shit, and I was just like, I see a lot of people in the comments on my TikTok talk about how I put their thoughts into perspective and into words. Yo, reading that random quote on some fucking Instagram, that shit puts so much into perspective for me that, like, I read that shit every morning now. Just reminding myself to be the best version of yourself, whatever that might be, and hope that it attracts the right people. You know, it's a lot. It's draining, but bettering yourself and then attaching to other people is the way to go, instead of like attaching yourself to other people and then trying to be better for them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now.
Do you struggle with letting go?
Yeah. For sure. Because I never want to feel like I made the wrong decision. I have OCD. Yeah. So I never want to struggle with making the wrong decision. I always want to be in full control of whatever I could be in full control over. And if I've spent a lot of time with you, or if our energy's connected, or bro, listen, I never believed in any of that shit, bro. I never believed in any of that shit until I found myself involved with somebody where it felt like we were just so spiritually, like emotionally, like this, like the same fucking person on opposite ends of the spectrum. I never believed in energy. I never believed that the universe is watching and is putting the right pieces into the. I just thought, whatever happens, and it is what it is. And I start to I'm an overthinker too, and I think that's also part of my OCD. But it's like it's hard for me to let go because I don't ever want to think that I made the wrong decision. I don't ever want to feel like I'm settling. I don't ever want to feel like I made the wrong decision. I don't ever want to feel like I'm making somebody feel how they made me feel. Like, you know what I mean? And I never, like, I care. The validation thing, getting validation from other people is also the opposite end of the spectrum, is caring so much about people. It's not necessarily only getting validation from them. That's a very selfish thing to think. It's not that I'm not selfish. I think we're all a little bit selfish at the end of the day. And that's also something that I'm trying to come to grips with and focus and dial back being selfish, right? You could be a positive selfish person, but you could also be a negative selfish person. And trying to get validation from everybody or the person that you're involved with, it puts a lot of pressure on them. You know what I mean? It puts a lot of pressure on them, bro, especially depending on where they're at in their lives. You know what I mean? And that's really where, I have that's a good question. I have a big problem with letting go and cutting ties because, again, like, not to be redundant, but when the switch goes off for me, it goes off. So it's hard for me to put it out. Because I know that more than likely there's no way that I come back from it. Like, and again, last time that I'm ever going to talk about that relationship, but the moment that light went out, when I tell you that I never saw her again, we're from the same place, South Brooklyn. Never ran into her again. Never. You know what I'm saying? Like, we never saw each other again. Been like 5 years. And if we did, it would be like that person doesn't exist. And it's bittersweet to me to be that type of person because, in the moment, these people mean a lot to you. And I don't ever want to get to that place, like that sad fucking place where, like, you don't mean shit to me no more because of what's happened. Whether it was on me or whether it was on you or it was on both of us, 50-50, whatever the case may be. It's hard for me to let go because I don't ever want to get to a place with the people that I love that you don't mean anything to me anymore.
Have you ever came across that sometimes those are just seasons that need to happen for you?
Yeah. And Zach said something on the journey when I was on it. He was like, sometimes you gotta also remember that what that person is to you, sometimes you are to that person, right?
Yeah.
And I said it on there. And
it seems like that's a tough thing for you to. It's a tough thing for you to process.
Oh yeah, bro. It's hard because I try to be the best that I can to people, the best way that I know how to, and when it doesn't work out, or if it feels like it's not working out, or if you're not where you want to be, or whatever, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it. You know what I mean? That I'm this person. I was the one that showed you bad, or I was the one that showed you good. Like, whatever. If I showed you good, then I don't feel too much about it because I'm glad that I was able to. I've been with women before that I might have been the only person that ever treated you right, and that shit backfired. That shit could backfire on you if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah.
And it's backfired on me plenty. And then I've been with women that haven't really been like with anybody serious before, and like I was their first clean slate, and I might not have been the best to them. So like now I became that person to you. So now maybe whoever's out there that I've ever hurt before is with somebody else. I'm sorry to whoever they're with because it might have took a little while for them to open up because of me. And I never want to be that person, but I have been before. And, when Zach said that shit, it really opened my eyes. Because, again, from a selfish point of view, you're only looking at it from your perspective. You're not looking at it from the other person's perspective. You're only looking at it from how you feel about it and how the other person feels about it. And I'm trying to be more selfless. I used to always preach that I was this selfless person until I realized some of the things that I were doing wasn't selfless. And it's hard for me to wrap my head around shit like that.
Yeah.
Becoming somebody that you never thought that you were. And it's one of these revelations that I had when I realized what they meant by like selling your soul to the devil, right? Or letting the world change. Like what that really means is like you kind of let the world change who you are, right? I don't ever want to let the world change who I am. And when I realize that I'm being more selfish than I'm being selfless, I start to realize that all the things that have happened to me, you shouldn't look at it like things are happening to you. You should look at it like things are happening for you, right? And it's hard sometimes to really recognize that when you're being a selfish person instead of a selfless person. There's like a really fine line there. So those are the two things that I'm working on: being more selfless instead of selfish, and also learning how to live in that gray area, because not everything needs to be 1,000,000% on. Sometimes it'll work into that. You know what I'm saying? It's not always going to be that right away. And I always need it to be like that right away. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't feel it.
Well, they talk about the honeymoon phases. You know what I mean? That attraction that it fades. You know, that because it's more or less when you and ironically, I just looked this up last night. There's 5 stages supposedly of a relationship. There's the one within the honeymoon. Yeah. Oh, everything's good. Yeah. The sex is great. Yeah. The conversations. Oh, like you're such like me. But then the second phase is, well, now I'm starting to seeing through you a little bit. Yeah. Like I'm seeing your insecurities. I'm seeing the way that you talk to yourself. I'm seeing the vulnerability. I'm seeing the weaknesses. And it's like the third stage where it's like we fail to accept that person. And it's this power struggle, like we're trying to, who's going to be more in power, who's going to be less in power, who's trying to be inferior, superior. I hate that. All of that. And then the fourth stage is like usually when the relationships break. Yeah. It's where that's, okay, like, are we going to push through this? A lot of bickering, a lot of fighting, all of that. And then the fifth stage is the ultimate acceptance, where it's like, I see this person, I don't even see, like, when I look at them, there's no clothes. Like it's completely naked. Like you're just this person, and it's you have your bad, but you have this beautiful aura to you, and within the person that you are, maybe for you it's the fucking tats, the big guy, and then it's like, okay, we see through that, but we see the scars too. But then we just ultimately accept who you are.
I think I think the problem with that is that not everybody gets to that fifth stage. Right, like relationships break apart in the middle of 2 and 3
because it's that social media. Yeah, it's the social media. We see the highs and the lows, and 100%. Once that dopamine of it fades. But what the thing is that love is not, to me. Love, yes, it's a feeling, but it's a choice. Like I'm choosing you. Like there's other people in the world that I could choose that are probably better looking, that probably have more money, that probably have more things. Yes. But I'm sitting here in this moment and I'm choosing you because the way you make me feel, I don't know if anybody else can make me feel that way. And that's the problem with relationships and social media nowadays.
And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. I also think that at some point, like sometimes depending on who it is, I think that love is not a choice because sometimes you just don't have an explanation for it. And it just kind of just like happens, like you're just like magnets to each other. Like you're just magnetic. You're just fucking whatever. You're just always drawn to each other no matter what. And you don't really have an explanation for it. I've been there. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I also think that there's a fine line between loving somebody and being in love with somebody. And I think that we kind of lose the sense of what love is, because I love that perspective that you just said. Because again, there could probably be somebody that's better looking than me, got more money than me, or whatever it is, and you choosing me is validation, right? It's like finding validation. So that's where I also not necessarily backtrack on my validation point, because you do need to be validated by your partner. It just shouldn't be like a make or break it for you. You know what I mean? But to go back to the love thing, yes, for most of the time it is a choice. I'm choosing you. But I also feel like if the person that I'm going to be with forever, I don't want to feel like I chose you. I just want to feel like this shit just happened, if that makes sense. This shit just kind of just fell into, I wasn't looking. Bro, all of the fucking relationships that I have ever been in, I've never looked for them. They just kind of just like happened. I never like got into a relationship thinking, okay, I'm going to go out and go find a girlfriend. It just kind of just like fell, at least for me. It always happened like that. I'm sure there's women out there that go out and like search for a relationship and then they find one, and more than likely it's not a scalable one because you were looking for it instead of letting it come to you. Yeah. It's just like that butterfly and garden thing, you know what I mean? And that's where that's where I'm at. But to talk about that is I definitely think there's a fine line between being in love with somebody and having love for somebody. Because being in love with somebody is super fucking intense. It's super intense. It could be a lot. And I feel like there is no explanation for it sometimes. And then, having love for people. Like, I have love for my friends. I'm not in love with my friends.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I
of
have
course.
love for my friends. I have love for my family. I have love for my parents. I have love for women in my life that are just friends. And there's no romantic or sexual aspect involved to it. You know what I'm saying? But once you cross over into that in love with somebody, I feel like two things. Number one, it's very different than having love for somebody. And I also feel like if that shit is, like, real, it never fades. Never. Never. That's how I kind of, or maybe it just takes a really, really long time, like a really long time, not right away, not within a month, and probably not within a year, you know. And I felt like that before too, because I never ever thought that I was gonna get over the first heartbreak that I ever did. I thought, I'm in love with this person. It is what it is. I'm gonna have to live with that for the rest of my life. And eventually, like 2 years in, I got over it, you know. And that made me realize that maybe, what I just said is not necessarily the truth, but I think that maybe that also means that it wasn't real. And I never necessarily really, in that moment, I've definitely felt it since, but in that moment, it wasn't truly in love. Maybe it was infatuation, maybe it was whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? So,
What does real love look like to you?
accepting somebody for who they are, as cliche as that sounds, cliches are cliche because they're true. Being open-minded with somebody, of course, obviously being attracted to somebody, being on the same path as somebody, and just having just like your lives and your emotions just kind of like fit together like a puzzle piece. Like, I think that I think the beautiful thing about love is it's not necessarily something that can be defined, right? I don't think that love can be defined. I don't know what love's definition is in the fucking Webster dictionary or whatever the case may be, but I think that love is unconditional. That's the best way that I could put it. Love is something that it doesn't matter, as fucked up as it is. It doesn't necessarily matter like what that person has done or what's happened here, whether it's positive, whether it's negative. Love is unconditional, and it's just not explainable, dude.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to put backing to that. Yeah, bro. It's that's how I think you could separate being in love and just loving somebody.
Yeah.
Is it unconditional? No matter what that person has done or what that person has said to you, at the end of the day, maybe in that moment that person is berating you and you'd feel like, fuck you, you know what I mean? But like 2 weeks from now, you go back to think about it and be like, damn, I still love that person. So it's obviously unconditional because they just damaged me and I still feel the same way. So I feel like unconditional love is very important. But I also, again, there's fine lines between everything, because I have unconditional love for like my parents or my family, but I'm not in love with them. Obviously, it's not, you know what I mean? So it's a very different thing. But I think as far as romantic love is concerned, I think the way that you could figure that out is if it's unconditional, which is probably hard to recognize also, especially when you've probably never felt it before. Because then, if somebody fucks you over, or you get into a fight, a real serious fight or whatever the case may be, and you start to not feel that love anymore, then it's like, oh shit. But if it's on the other end of the spectrum too, or if some shit like that were to happen to you and you still feel that unconditional love, it's also like, oh shit. And it's intense and it's a lot of pressure, not only on yourself, but on that other person too. It's not only you. And that's where the selfish and the selfless is coming into play for me right now.
Yeah. Something I want to kind of want to switch gears a little bit.
Yeah.
What is the dark side of John? Like, what is the side that you don't speak about, but you've wanted to? Like, it's been lingering on your mind. You wanted to share it, but you're kind of like, I don't know.
I mean, I spoke about it on the first episode of the journey, but we never really like got into it. But and it's a trigger word, but it is what it is. Like being suicidal, being in a place where you don't want to be here anymore. Being in a place where you walk across the street and don't look both ways because you don't care what happens to you. That's the best way that I can explain it to people, is being in such a dark place that you just don't give a fuck, that you don't look both ways when you're crossing the street. You know what I'm saying? And like, bro, you ever see a fucking, like, I've seen it now that I think about it before. Like I've seen it. You ever see like a homeless person just walk in the middle of traffic in like Manhattan or some shit? Like, he just has no regard for his life.
No care.
No care. And it's a tough place to be in. It's a tough place to be in when you feel like you can't talk to nobody, even though, of course, like when you're down that bad, you can talk to people. And obviously, like if any of my friends are listening, or really anybody, bro, if you ever feel like you can't talk to anybody, you could always talk to me, because I know exactly what that feels like, you know. And to feel like that alone, it could really, really, you know, put you in a dark place. And for me, you know, my vice was always just like kind of like going out and getting drunk, or doing drugs, or smoking, or, you know, just trying to like mask that feeling. And it never works, because it's like putting on makeup. Eventually you got to wipe it off. And that's probably, but I would see, that's the thing. That's the other bittersweet part to me about being vulnerable. I feel like there hasn't really been anything that I want to talk about that I haven't. I've spoken about pretty much everything. Maybe not in like full detail, because again, you know, being suicidal, I never, at the time, I never had a way of thinking about how am I going to do it. It was just more so of a thought process. Like I said, walk across the street and not looking both ways. But for the most part, I've pretty much spoken about everything. Again, maybe not in like full detail, but I've definitely like glossed over a lot of the stuff that I feel like like the dark parts to me, for sure. I'm sure maybe, you know, talking more about it, there might be other emotions that I've buried real deep, that I've never spoken about, that I don't even like remember, that might come about. But for the most part, as far as Dark John is concerned, I've been very open about that part. And that's hard. That's really hard on the people around you too. You know, like every time, bro, the first time I did the journey, and I told that story about, you know, that there was this one night in October last year where I didn't want to be here, and, you know, whatever, yada, yada. My mother didn't know about that. And she watched that shit, and she called me crying, you know? And it's a lot. It's a lot to be this vulnerable and emotional dude that looks like this, that everybody thinks everything is all fine and dandy from the outside looking in, and it's not. And to hear me talk about it, it's kind of like this wow factor, because my mother had no idea, you know? And that's hard. But it never stopped me from being emotional or vulnerable and transparent in a sense. So for the most part, I've pretty much spoken about most things. I feel like we might get into some crazy shit here. I don't know. But, you know what I mean? Like, that's, for the most part, I pretty much spoke about everything.
It's the what I notice is it's usually the people that usually feel that way. You see the Robin Williams, you see the people that are just so
Anthony Bourdain.
The so great and positive people.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what I've started to realize is that you really just have to start checking on your people.
Yeah.
Because you never know. You never know that smile that they're putting on for you. They could go home and all of a sudden they could be crying.
Bro, I just seen a clip from Deion Sanders, bro, the other day, talking about, I forgot the pod that he was on, but somebody asked him, like, oh, what was the darkest place that he ever been? And he was like, I was suicidal. He's like, I was suicidal when I was playing 2 sports and I was on top of the world. You couldn't turn left or right and not see my name and see my face. I was on a commercial here and I was on this, there, and third. And I was at the lowest point I had ever been, and nobody knew, you know? And that just goes to your point, always checking on your people.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Just because it's like you never know. Like you think that the success, or like you think that the money, the fame, the women, the houses, the cars, you know, you think all of these things are going to fill that void.
No.
But they never do. They do for a little bit, right? But when you sit back and you look at yourself and you look back at night, you know, when you're sitting there by yourself, and you're looking at your shit, you're feeling your shit, and it's like, you know, I'm putting on this complete facade.
Yeah, bro. It's like thinking moving into a bigger house is gonna like fulfill your needs of a home.
Yeah.
And until you realize that if you're in that big ass house by yourself, it's even worse. Probably.
Like, imagine how fucking Drake feels, bro. That you see how big his house is.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like,
bro.
he doesn't even know what rooms are rooms.
Yeah, 100%. And a lot of it, you know, sure is metaphorical, but even in that literal sense, it's definitely like overwhelming and overbearing, and you probably like start to fill that house with people that don't deserve to be there because you just want to be around people, or you just want the validation, or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Not saying that that's what he does, but just in general. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just like building up this really, really big house and trying to turn it into a home instead of building a home. You know, there's a fine line between a house and a home. I know that firsthand. You know what I mean? And I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that can resonate with that shit. So to that effect, yeah, 100%. And that all starts within.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It all starts within.
I want to get into we're at war, you know, and I know what your answer is going to be. We're all at war with something. How long have you been feeling like you were at war with yourself? Because I think that when I see that, right, when I looked at it, we're all at war with something. I knew, and just like hearing, I can hear that there's an internal war going on.
Oh yeah, probably my entire life, bro. Because, you know, I and this is something that I learned in therapy. I started going to therapy for the first time 2 months ago.
Good man.
And he asked me, he was like, when did you start feeling depressed or anxiety? And I couldn't really pinpoint it. And now we're going through it. And I started to realize that, you know, as a teenager in like high school and shit, you know, I would like clothes or movies or music or pop culture or media, whatever the case may be, that not a lot of other people liked, at least not for the same reason. And in that moment, if you're a secure person in yourself, it's not that I wasn't a cool kid. I was a part of the cool kid group. I was an athlete, a varsity athlete, you know, whatever the case may be. But when you're somebody that's already insecure for whatever reason, when people don't validate your opinion on things, it goes back to the validation. I started to feel like an outcast, and I started to feel like at war, like it's like that civil war inside yourself, where it's like, I feel like this, but should I? But I do. But like, should I? Because nobody else is validating it. Nobody else feels the same way, obviously. Nobody likes this the way I like it, or nobody likes it at all, you know? And that's when I started to realize, and that's that in that moment, having that conversation with my therapist, that's when I started to realize that's when I started to feel depressed and anxiety, you know? And that's been my battle. That was and still is something that I battle with currently. And then I would say the other battle to me, and I didn't even start to realize this until recently, is like my self-perception, because of what I look like and then who I actually am. You know, it's not to say that I'm not this tough guy. Like, I think we all are at the end of the day. But, like, I definitely look like I'm in prison. You know what I'm saying? And, like, I'm just, like, just not that I'm just big, soft, and cuddly teddy bear and shit. But, like, for the most part, I am. I don't want no problems. I don't want to be bothered with no shit. Like, I'm vulnerable and I'm sensitive and I'm transparent. And, of course, there's that other side to me that's, like, rough and tough. Like, I used to be a fighter. You had no choice, you know what I'm saying? And maybe that's why that shit also didn't work out for me. I don't know. I didn't really have the mental for it, you know? But of course I could snap into that shit and be alpha with my friends, or in business, or in the gym, or athletically, or whatever the case may be. But for the most part, that's also something that I've been at war with for a long time, and I didn't realize it until recent, though. But my perception has definitely been something that I've been at war with a long time, too. So kind of like a combination of those things. And I would say that it's pretty much for my entire life. Since I can remember, obviously not like a toddler, but like teenager, early teens, you know, high school.
Why is there so much resistance? Like, I know we spoke about it earlier, but like, why is there so much resistance within the self-acceptance? Because are you scared or nervous?
I really don't know, like, where. Like, I would love to come to a revelation, even like now.
But there's the only thing that I could think of is like, there could be a little bit of nerves to embrace who you actually are.
Yeah, because
of the tattoos, you know, because of all that.
I think,
and it's a lot.
I think it's my abandonment issues, per se, because anybody that I've ever been close with, and not anybody, because again, I still have like my best friends that I grew up with, you know, shout out to them, bro. Like, really thank God for them. But as far as everything else is concerned, bro, everything has always like happened to just fade away, you know? Like I got an uncle that was my second father growing up that I don't speak to no more. That was kind of like out of my control. Like my ex, that was kind of out of my control. My parents got divorced, was out of my control, and that was probably part of my abandonment issue. So I feel like every single time, not every time, 95% of the times, I've finally felt comfortable opening up and being myself, people leave. And it's hard to feel validated in wanting to be yourself when not every single time, but a lot of the times, 9 or 8 times out of 10, when I start to show who I am, it scares a lot of people away, you know? And it could scare a lot of people away because I'm good for them and they're not ready for that, or it just scares a lot of people away because that's just not like what they're looking for in a friend or a boyfriend or husband or whatever the case may be, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's probably why. And that's also why I like doing this. And I hate to find acceptance and validation on social media, but it does make me feel a little bit more accepted when I do talk about like this. And then I do get the DMs and the comments like, yo, thank you. I feel the same way. You know what I mean? So that in that sense, I do think validation from the outside is important. I think it's human nature for us to really give a fuck about what other people think. But it's definitely this double-edged sword. And I think that's where it stems from. I definitely have abandonment issues in the sense that I've literally like had shit ripped away from me because of who I am and how I portray myself out there, and then coming into a situation where you didn't think that I was probably that person off the rip anyway. Because bro, let's just say you meet me in a club. Right, and I'm not finding my wife in a fucking club. I know that.
Oh no.
You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, you meet me in a club and we have this 20-minute conversation over a drink. Like, I'm obviously not going to be emotional and vulnerable with you then. So you just got this first impression of me that's like this cool guy, this cool popular dude that looks like this. Give it a month or two, and you're probably going to get somebody that you didn't realize. And not that I'm a bad person. It's just like this vulnerability that you probably didn't realize that you were going to get. As long as I like you, because that's the other thing. Like, and I said this on the journey too. Like, for me, I can't be romantically involved with somebody, not even like a girlfriend thing, like just dating or talking to, unless I like you.
Yeah.
And if I like you, that means that I feel comfortable opening up to you. That means that I feel comfortable being vulnerable with you. That means that it might move a little quicker than you thought or that you wanted because of the type of person I am and because I like you. I can't have sex with somebody I don't like. I've had like 1 or 2 one-night stands in my life, bro. Seriously, I can't. Like, it's just not for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's just it's a lot on people.
I relate to that. And my therapist talked about. I go to therapy as well, and my therapist talked about. Sometimes you just need to, though. Like, it depends where you're at, right? Yeah, like, if you're. It's very much a communication thing, right? If I'm feeling comfortable with you, if I'm feeling, the vibe, and I also am seeing that you are too. Yeah. You could probably speed things up.
Yeah.
But it's if I'm feeling one way, she might be on the slower spectrum. Yeah. Like, it's very like person to person thing, but kind of what people say like going with the flow is like, and for me that's an extremely hard thing to process because it's like, well, we're going with the flow, but where's the flow going?
What is the flow?
Where is the flow going?
The ocean current changes all the time.
Exactly.
So what is the flow? So for me, again, it's hard for me to recognize too. I had somebody tell me that not too long ago that like just wants to go with the flow. Yeah. My flow is that when I'm feeling you, I'm flowing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't know how to be. I really am trying to, because again, where I'm at in my life, I don't think that I should be attached to somebody. I was in a relationship on and off, with 2 or 3 different people for like 8 years, bro. Like,
is there a way that you can not attach yourself?
No. That's what I'm working on. That's the gray area. Yeah. That's my gray area. Is trying to not, get attached that quick anyway. I don't know if it's possible for me to not get attached because, again, I can only fuck with you romantically if I like you. And if I like you, that means I'm more than likely going to get attached to you at some point, as long as we keep on moving forward in the same direction. If I like you and then you make it known that, like, maybe this is not for you in the beginning, I could get over it pretty quick. But once you start to put that time in, once you start to put that love in, that energy in, it's hard for me to detach when I've attached myself to you. And that goes back to the turning the switch on and off. Yeah. Because once I turn that switch off, the electricity to the house is done. We cut the wires, and we ain't rerouting the wires. We're just gonna have to go tell the electrician to come and run some new. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it's hard when I turn that switch. When I turn that switch off, it doesn't get turned back on, and that's also where I'm at. Like, no more switch at all. Yeah. Let's just live in this gray area and try to go with the flow.
Live in the present.
Live in the present. Live in the moment.
Yeah.
Right. It's hard for me to live in the moment, and I think that stems from the business that I'm in, because I have to be. No, rightfully so. There's brands out there that are making clothes 12 months in advance, and they have to live 12 months ahead. And for me, I'm always looking towards the future, and it's hard for me to live in the moment. And it's just, I'm in a real learning and growth period of my life right now. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, but there's a lot of growing pains, and I still go through it on a day-to-day basis.
Could probably be alone and lonely.
It is very lonely, bro. It's a very, very lonely journey.
A little bit more on your brand.
Yeah.
10 years. You've been making clothes.
Yeah, in April it'll be fucking 10 years.
30,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
An NFL player. Yeah. Just Warrior shit.
Shout out to
Kareem Hunt. And you still doubt yourself.
Yeah.
Why?
I think that's natural. I just saw Chris Brown talk about this the other day. It made me feel better about it. He's like, yo, sometimes I feel like I'm not talented enough. And I'm like thinking to myself, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But I get it. And obviously it's not on that spectrum because that guy's like the Michael Jackson of our generation. But I still doubt myself. I think that that's normal. I think that, and I talk about this all the time, and you tell me what you think about it. But I don't think that there will ever be a point that I could get to where I'm like, okay, I'm satisfied where I'm at. I feel like that's the problem. 19-year-old me never thought that we would do 60,000 in sales in a month. You know what I'm saying? 19-year-old me never thought that. 29-year-old me looks at it like, it's not enough.
It's fucking a lot, bro. I've never seen 60,000.
You know what I'm saying?
But switch the perspective, because like you've seen 60,000.
Yeah.
I a little bit more about me. I never came from money.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So like me seeing 60,000, like. Bro, that's a lot.
No, it's a lot, of course. And obviously, you're not clearing that. That's just revenue, and you got to, like, pay people and your overhead, and you have the cost of goods and whatever the case may be. But just I only throw that number out there, and obviously we don't do that every month. That was, like, our best month. But I'm just saying, 19-year-old me never thought that we would reach some shit like that, right? And then when you reach some shit like that, it's like, all right, what's next? And that's why I'm a fan of slow growth instead of skyrocketing growth. And I also think that plays a part in, relationships.
Yeah.
Because it's like, let's say you get the girl of your dreams. And she's everything that you thought that she was going to be. Of course, you should live in that moment and love it. But I get scared that I think that, like, okay, what's next? You know? Because I'm always looking towards the future. And that's really where I'm at. Really where I'm at as an umbrella thing is just to try to fucking live in the moment. And that goes for business and that goes for everything else. But to go back to the question of why I doubt myself, I don't necessarily think it's a doubt. I think it's necessarily a growth thing. Well, I just want to continue growing like we talk about, the 1%. Yeah. Trying to just get better 1% at a time. And that's a slow and steady climb that doesn't necessarily show visibly every day that growth. But if you compound it, of course, it's growth. But that's where I feel like my self-doubt comes into play. It's not that I doubt myself as a designer or a creative director. I know wholeheartedly that my perspective is A1. Is an elite perspective from a design, curator, creative standpoint. I know that. I know that everything that I've been through, I know that looking back on when I'm a kid and people didn't necessarily like the music. Like, I'll give you an example. I think this is a perfect example. Joe Budden, right? Growing up, Joe Budden was my favorite rapper. Very deep, very introspective. He was my favorite. Nobody else felt like that. You know what I'm saying? And then I found some friends, and we became friends literally via our fandom for Joe Budden. And that was kind of when I started to realize that it's a very bittersweet thing that I want my validation from other people, and not a lot of people share the same perspective as me. But growing through it, I start to realize the sweet part to that is that no one shares the same perspective as me.
Yeah.
I have this perspective on things that really not a lot of people look at the same way, and I think that that's a positive to me, and that's probably why I'm a designer, because I don't draw, I'm not a painter, I'm a writer, but perspective is really where I draw all my inspiration from, and I know that nobody else has the same perspective as me. So that's, to a sense, like, of course I fucking still doubt myself. I feel like everybody gets to that point, but that's what I hold on to, that my perspective is A1. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I definitely feel you on that.
Yeah. The only thing I have a lot of confidence in is my mindset towards everything, because like everything is art to me. Everything is connected and everything matters, and like how you write your grocery list, or how you take your coffee, or your morning routine, or your nightly routine, or I don't know, how fast you type, or bullshit, whatever the case may be. I feel like everything that makes you who you are, and that's art in itself. And that's perspective, because now, look, it's like looking at a car that's split in color. Like if this side of the car is red and this side of the car is blue, and you're looking at it from this perspective, well, the car is fully blue. If somebody's looking at it from that perspective, then the car is fully red. You know what I mean? But if you're looking at it from over top, you see that it's 50-50. And I think that perspective is the most important thing in the world, honestly, especially when it comes to art and design, because everybody's perspective is different. Mm-hmm. I can't see you, but you could see me. And you can't see yourself, but I could see you. So like your perspective on yourself is different than my perspective of you, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Or how you view a movie. What's happened to you in life is different than the person sitting behind you watching the movie. So like you might relate to something in the movie that nobody else does, and vice versa. You know what I mean? So I think that that's super, super important, and that's the only thing that I hold on to when I start to feel like a little bit of self-doubt.
Self-doubt is a killer, though.
Oh, yeah, bro. Especially as a creative, when you take validation from other people, when you need validation from other people. Because also at the end of the day, listen, I need validation from other people because I need other people to buy my shit. I need other people to listen to me. That's validation. You know what I mean? So being in a business that literally requires that to grow and succeed, and then seeing it bleed into your personal life, it really starts to become this thing where I have no separation between church and state. I talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I think that's really the bittersweet part to being self-employed and being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's a lot, bro. It's a lot.
What's going on, everybody? We had a little bit of a difficulty. But the last question I want to ask you is, what is something that we kind of touched on it a little bit, but what is something that you want to become 1% better in?
Being okay with myself, who I am.
Okay.
You know, being and that goes back to like the finding validity in other people. I want to be so okay with myself that it doesn't matter about validation for other people. I want to be so secure and so happy with who I am that I haven't been for a really long time.
Yeah.
That you know, bro, like I wake up with fucking like a pit in my stomach sometimes, and I'm just not who I want to be, or I'm just not happy with who I am or where I'm at in life. And I know that from the outside looking in, that could look crazy because if you know me from where I started, you know, I'm not gonna say I come from nothing. My parents did the best that they could to put me in a position to be where I'm gonna go, but like in the sense, yeah, I don't come from a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't come from a clothing background. I don't come from a media background. I don't come from an entrepreneurial background at all. Everybody in my family is blue collar. And ain't nothing wrong with it, but just like construction or city job or, you know, whatever the case may be. So I never really had any backing on that. So for me to literally be the one in my family that maybe like changed things a little bit, it's hard for me to like be okay with myself being around that. So what I really want to do is get 1% better in every day or whatever it happens to, whatever that climb happens to be. I just want to be better at accepting myself and who I am. You know what I mean? And not really necessarily worrying about what everybody else thinks. And that's hard.
Yeah.
1% though. Keep on going. 1, let that shit compound and keep on going from there. Because the other problem that I have is I've always wanted to be 50% better or 100% better, and it just let it start from 1 and then just keep on going from there. You know what I'm saying? So just living in the moment, I want to be 1% better at. Living in that gray area to a certain extent, I want to be 1% better at. But for the most part, be 1% better at accepting who I am and embracing it.
Yeah,
you know?
I love that.
Yeah, hell yeah,
I love that. I'll let you open up the floor to
yeah. I'm just you know, I would love to just get your perspective on why you started this pod. What was the inspiration behind it? And I know that there was probably a little bit of pain behind it. And where did that pain come from? You know what I'm saying? Because you need inspiration. Like for me, and I feel like, you know, we're very similar people. I need inspiration, and I think that drawing from pain is a bittersweet thing. I've been saying bittersweet a lot, but it's definitely a bittersweet thing because nobody wants to feel pain. But if you use it as fuel, then it can be important to you. So yeah, I know that was like 3 questions in one, but you know, why did you start the pod? And really 2 questions. Why did you start the pod, and where did the inspiration come from to really like keep consistent and keep it on going and focus on social media and yada? We spoke about villain arc before. Like, where did all that shit come from? You know what I mean?
Okay. So one, I on a previous pod I already answered why, but I think there's a different. So to answer your question in the pain, right? I often feel a lot of pain that I don't really speak about because I guess people look at me in a sense of, like I spoke to you before, they think that, you know, I'm not this angry or this person that, when they actually kind of see that some things bother me, or the one thing I never wanted to do is I never wanted to use the pain to treat other people in the way that I felt. And I spoke a little bit on that on a recent pod with Zach, but I don't like giving people what I felt, because I think going on the high road in terms of like, okay, this thing happened to me, and
I want to make sure it doesn't happen to other people.
Yeah. Why would I want to do what was given to me?
A lot of people don't think like that. A lot of people think like, oh, if it happened to me, well, then fuck you. I got to repay it somehow, some way. You know what I mean? And it's definitely not the way to go. So I respect that.
There was this one light bulb moment, and it happened in, I think it was like February. I was on my way to a podcast, one of the local podcasts that blew up, and I remember I was going through such a difficult time at that time. I just got out of a relationship.
How long was that relationship?
6 months.
Okay.
So after that relationship happened, I was, a lot of things that I was trying to, navigate within personal identity. And this kind of ties into the pain. I was driving there, and I remember, I don't know what song was playing, but I remember just crying.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with God, and what I told him was, whatever you have to do to me, do it to me. Don't give it to nobody else. Let me be the soldier that you just fucking keep on going after and keep on going after and keep on shooting down and all these losses, because I want to be that vessel that gives the light to everybody else.
Yeah, I can resonate with that.
Like, I'd rather go through all this shit than have somebody else go through that shit. And I remember sitting there breaking down, crying. I said, God, whatever you want to do the fuck to me.
Yeah.
Like, let me go through this shit.
Because you know you're strong enough to handle it.
I know I'm strong enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, there's been plenty of times in my life where 18 years old, I'm struggling with depression, and, parents just got divorced, and I'm 18 years old and I'm thinking about suicide, and at 20 years old, 21 years old, I'm going through alcoholism, and I'm drinking every night because I'm in pain.
You don't want to feel it anymore.
I don't want to feel it. And at 21 years old, I'm going through that.
Yeah.
So I sit there and I'm like fucking yelling. I'm like, God, give me this shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want anybody else to go through this shit. Give me the pain.
Especially not my loved ones. You don't want,
Nobody.
Yeah.
I don't want nobody. Not even my worst enemy to go what I went through.
You have a lot of empathy. That's why, which is important. You feel for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think is important, and I think that's something that's been lost nowadays.
Yeah.
So it's very important that you have that, and I love that.
I told, I had a conversation, and I just said that I want to be the vessel that you put me through this shit. I'd rather go through this shit, and whatever it is that I got to go through, then I'll go through it.
Yeah.
So I could be able to be the light for other people.
Fuck yeah.
I never wanted to be I don't want any more pain to just exist on this earth, as I know that is what it's going to be.
Of course.
Right? Because that's just inevitable.
Can't take it away from everybody.
At some point there's got to be some type of love.
But at some point, right? And my father always used to tell me this growing up, and this just leads into a question. But my father always used to tell me, yo, you have like this superhero syndrome, like you just always want to save everybody, and at some point, like that shit is gonna backfire on you because you can't save everybody, right? So my question to you is, like, you being this type of person, and I'm that type of person. I've literally said almost verbatim that to people before. Yeah. Who will you ever let anybody save you? Feel me? Like you think you'll ever get to the point where, and I guess this is a question that maybe you don't have the answer to because you don't know if you're ever going to meet somebody, but do you think that you'll ever be in a moment where you're open-minded enough to let somebody come in and save you? Because, bro, honestly, like I've dealt with this before, and I promised myself that I wasn't gonna give details. So, like we spoke about before, like the people that you're talking about, it's heavy on them. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I do my best to kind of scale back and not go into details. But I've dealt with a woman before that wouldn't let me be that person because I am that person. Right? I want to help you. I know that you've been through things and you don't trust men because of what's happened with your father or X, Y, and Z or ex-boyfriend, whatever the case may be. And you never were able to let me in. So do you think, and I know that she works on it, you know what I'm saying? But I think, do you ever think that you'll get to a place where you will let somebody be to you what you are to other people? Because I think that's important. I think that at some point you need that. You need that.
I think I've always needed that. And shit, I'm gonna go on a tangent.
Let's do it. Yeah.
I'll zoom in. This is my lock screen. That's little Avi. Little Avi never had the father figure that he needed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that within Avi not having that father figure, he made it his life's mission to be there for other people because he never wants other individuals to go through that.
What he went through. Which is a beautiful thing.
He wants he wants to be there for other people when they're not there for themselves. He wants people to believe in themselves without a doubt in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got a dream, they want to fucking chase that shit, go for it.
Yeah.
The reason why that's still my lock screen and all of that is because Avi sometimes is not good to himself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I'm not good to myself, when I'm not speaking well to myself, when I'm not treating myself the way, this is the reminder, yo, that's who you're speaking to.
Yeah.
That's who you're treating right there.
Yeah.
You don't want to neglect that.
But you need a person to snap you out of that sometimes too.
I haven't found that.
I know. I could tell.
I haven't found that.
But I'll also tell you this, like, even if you do find that person, it's not an end all be all kind of thing. It's not like, oh, I just found this person that gives me the validation that I needed, that I'm X, Y, and Z, and like that's it. 'Cause that's not true. Because I've had that and threw it away. Yeah. You know, so that's why I asked you that, because I do feel like you've never found that. And I know how difficult it is to be a light for other people when it's hard to be a light for yourself.
Sure.
But I think that's why we try to be lights for other people, like you said, so that nobody else feels the same type of shit that we felt. But I also think that we know how strong we are, that we don't want other people to feel the depression or the suicidal thoughts that we felt before, because we know at the end of the day that we're so strong that we could probably power through that, but we don't know if those people are that strong, right? So I just don't ever want those people to ever get to a point where, like, bro, I was real close. You know what I'm saying? And not even like to get into it, but I was real close pretty much a year ago. And I battled through that, and I worry about my people, that if they were ever to feel like that, not that I'm stronger than everybody else, because I'm not, you know, especially emotionally I'm not, but we don't ever want people to feel like that, because we don't know if they're going to make it through what we made it through. Yeah. So I just always want to be like that superhero for other people, but we got to be the superhero for ourselves sometimes at the end of the day.
Oh yeah, we got to be it for us. I'm willing to, I think that I'm in that state where it's been, you know, fight or flight. It's been very much survival mode.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to allow somebody to help me through that. You know, sometimes the healer needs healing. You
Absolutely.
know, the healer 100% needs healing.
Because we're like martyrs, kind of, if you think about it. Like, being this open and vulnerable, like, it's going to come with eyes that are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Right?
Especially as men.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So, especially as men, a lot of people are going to look at it like, not all of them, obviously, because if it was all of them, then we probably wouldn't do it, because we realize it wouldn't resonate with anybody, but we resonate with a lot of people. But of course it's going to come, and even with women, because a lot of women will look down upon it and be like, the male generation is so feminine now because they're in touch with their emotions and shit. So it could definitely, you know, backfire in that sense. But then maybe those people just aren't for us, or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever it is. And I think that we're martyrs in that sense, that like we put ourselves out there so other people could resonate with us, but that comes with a very, very, you know, expensive price tag attached to it, as far as public perception and emotionally for how we are. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so that segues into the next question, is that basically like you said that you consider off camera, I think we spoke about this, like that AtWar is like a mental health brand, right? Is this a mental health podcast?
100%. So
is it hard for you to be that vulnerable person, and do you care about the perception of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
so 100%. What do you do to power through that? Do you read DM? Like, bro, I'll screenshot DMs that have made me feel a certain type of way in the moment, where somebody's like, yo, you really saved my life, or I feel like this. Like, how do you personally get through those feelings? Because like at the end of the day, this is what you want to do for a living, right?
Yeah.
So like, how do you battle through that? Because I know how hard it is.
Yeah. Last episode, Zach told me that you just like, he felt like I was holding back, because I would call him and I would say, you know, I need to talk about some things.
Yeah.
But he never. He told me like this is the life you want to promote, if this is what you want to be for other people, if this is how when you interview somebody, you're interrogating them because you want to know what they're going through.
Yeah.
You have to lead by example.
Yeah.
And I've started to be more open and honest, and that last episode I was definitely honest within myself, and just trying to live in that. Like, if you're not okay, that's fucking okay.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with identity issues, if you're struggling with abandonment issues, if you're still healing that inner child, if you're fucking 24 years old and you feel like you don't know what you're doing, if you feel like you're being unloved, like all these things, talk about it.
Yeah, it's okay.
Because once you say something like that, you never know what the fuck can happen with social media. You never know who it could reach. Oh shit, that could reach a podcast that you've been wanting to go on.
100%. Or it could just reach somebody that's been going through it that needed to hear it, right? Like, I'm in the club fucking 2 weeks ago, and some kid comes up to me and he was like, "Yo, you don't know me, but I just wanted to say thank you for being, that type of person on social media and saying the things that we don't speak. I was going through a breakup, or I was going through something with my family." I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was like, "Yo, I was going through some shit. To hear you talk about it, it really, grounded me a little bit." And I looked at him and I said, "Brother, let me tell you something. It's okay." Right? That's all I said. And bro, he put his head right here for like a second. It was just like, and I'm like, "Yo, it's all good." Pat him on the head. It was like, "Nice to meet you, brother." Like, we'll talk at some point, whatever the case may be. And it's just like, you have no idea what you're doing for other people, because it's hard to gauge. Like, some people won't even say that to you. There's probably millions of people out there that feel the same way that we do, that never want to speak about it.
There's power in it. Now you have the platform.
Yeah.
We have the
What do you do?
Tools.
What do you do? It's hard. Again, because it's hard to be an open book, right? And it'll also backfire on you because a lot of people like mystique and shit, and I'm just not a mystical person. I'm very open. Yeah, everything. You're gonna know everything about me pretty much, not right away, but if we mesh well together, you're gonna know pretty much everything soon. You feel me? So there's never going to be, some sort of this like guessing about me. I'm always going to put my cards out on the table, and however we play with them, we play with them. There's a bittersweet moment to that, but I do feel like people, at least the people that are important, they definitely appreciate that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I hope you realize that, because I know how hard it is, and I know how hard it is to be open and vulnerable and shit like that. And I'm glad to have this conversation with you, and I'm glad to what do you think you need to do in order to be a little bit more, because Zach said that you feel like you were holding back, right? And obviously, like, you interviewed me for most of this, so I'm glad to I don't even have any questions written down. I'm just kind of going on the fly here, but I'm glad to be able to ask you, what do you think you need to do personally to get yourself to open up a little bit more, at least when the camera's rolling? Because that's the only way that this is gonna scale. I mean, you know that.
No, for sure.
It's not only bringing people on here and having them go and be introspective and shit at the end of the day. And I think you do it, but again, you're saying Zach says that it feels like, and he obviously knows you way better than me. And again, shout out to Zach. But you know what I mean? Like, you make it feels like, for somebody that knows you better than I know you, I can't tell if you're holding back or not because we just met. But what do you think that you need to do in order to get yourself to a position where you feel comfortable being super open?
I think I'm scared on what people would see.
Yeah.
I think I'm scared that people see me, that I post stories on Instagram, fucking pushing weight. You know what I mean? Yeah. Fucking lifting weight. Most people don't understand that's a cover up.
Of course.
That's a cover up.
Yeah, bro, these tattoos are a cover up.
Right.
Well, they're art and I love them, but I get what you're saying. It's similar.
It's a cover up.
Yeah.
Me lifting 250 fucking pounds for 3 to 4 reps is a cover up.
Yeah.
Like, me working on my body is a cover up.
Yeah. Cover up for what? Tell me. Break it down.
It's a cover up because I'm not that, like, I'm strong on the outside, like, I'm this big fucking, like, I push weight, I'm in the gym, moving fucking heavy shit, but it's a cover up because there's this little boy inside that needs fucking help sometimes.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
And for me to unmask that, for me to unmask who I've been on social media for 3 years, that I'm this fucking positive, super positive person, maybe sometimes toxic positivity, that there's just no negative side to you.
Yeah.
But that shit fucking lives there. You know, the gym is where it's just released.
Yeah.
Like that's just a byproduct of it.
Yeah.
So
you have a problem releasing it here because in the gym it's private.
Yeah.
Here it's for everybody to see it. It's public, right? Like my boy told me the other day, I was talking about how, like, bro, not for nothing, like, I'm on a podcast I'm hyper-focused on pods right now. I was on The Journey. I was on another one. I'm on this one. I'm about to go on another one with Zach. I'm in this moment where I really enjoy doing this shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, yo, it's therapy for you. And I stopped for a second. And I said to myself, do you know how bittersweet that is? That I feel so comfortable being so open and vulnerable on pods like this, where you're right. This is literally the type of shit that I would talk about with my therapist. But you know what the obvious difference is? Everybody gets to see it. You know, everybody gets to see that part. It's scary, bro. Because
people know about you. Like when you go into a relationship, you go into a friendship, like they already know.
Bro, I wonder what they think when I walk into a bar or a club. What is your new first impression of me?
Yeah.
You feel me?
Like me meeting you without the previous knowledge of the podcast, I think you're this like big fucking scary guy.
Exactly. And do I have that side to me? Yeah, of course, but it's not anywhere. It's not even fucking 20% of who I am. You know, and that's why it's also a bittersweet thing that I get to come on here and be who I actually am. But I would be lying if I didn't say to you that I do think about how people that maybe necessarily didn't know that about me now see me talk about suicide or talk about depression or talk about anxiety. Like, do you think more or less of me? It shouldn't matter. That's where the validity comes into play. Yeah. It really shouldn't matter. I should just be okay with being myself. But at the end of the day, I worry about, you know, these people that are in this clique, because obviously New York is very cliquey. Like, how do you... There's no answer to it because I'm asking basically thousands of people.
I think, though, people that genuinely fuck with you would genuinely fuck with you. Like, I don't think it's like...
Yeah.
And like you, I struggle with that too. Like I struggle with well, what do people think of me? Like if I put this out, like what would people think?
Yeah.
You know, if I struggle with this, what would people think?
Yeah.
But I think that and what I've noticed and like, bro, community is fucking everything.
It's everything.
Like, you to really build a worldwide community, you need to have a small one. You know, if you want to go far, you could go far with everybody. You can go just as far as with yourself, but you need other people.
100%.
And if other people fuck with you, then guess what? Maybe that's a 50 group. Now, guess what? You post content. Now, 50 more people fuck with you.
Yeah.
And then now, 2 times more of that people fuck with you. So now it's damn near 1,000. Yeah. And then 1,000 turns into 10, and 10 turns into 20, and the rest is history.
Yeah, it snowballs. It's like the thing where it's like if nothing changes, nothing changes. Yeah. It's like nobody fucks with you until everybody fucks with you. You know, so it's such a crazy, it's such a seesaw thing because it doesn't make sense when you say it out loud. It's like nobody's gonna fuck with you until everybody fucks with you. Okay, well, where does that everybody start?
Starts with you.
Yeah.
Then it starts with Then it starts with your friends.
Yeah.
Then it starts with the friends that they tell.
Yeah.
And then their friends tell everybody. Yeah. And then the fucking one video that you post goes viral, and now it's like everybody fucks with you.
Everybody fucks with you. Yeah.
But that's where the community starts. And you know that obviously we're building a brand.
Oh yeah, that's why like when I always say that the clothing is merch to a mindset for AtWar.
I fucking love it, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
I love it so much. Bro.
Of course I'm a fashion designer. Of course I want to stay up on trends. Of course I want to make cool shit and I want to, you know, yada yada whatever. But and yet at the end of the day, bro, it's all about pushing out this message that I feel like was a hole that not only the streetwear community needed, but just like. And it's not just men; it's women too. You know, it's just
need it as well.
Oh, for sure, it's my outlet it's my diary. Yeah. It's my, you know, the garments, the t-shirts, the shorts, the sweats, the socks, anything. All the materials are my pages, and the colors, and the words, and the graphics are me handwriting in a journal, and basically just giving everybody. You know, it just becomes an extension of me. And so do these pods. They become an extension of me just verbally instead of just like aesthetically through clothing. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I always say that the clothing is the merch to a mindset. The pods that I do is always merch to a mindset to how I'm thinking. You know what I'm saying? And it's a very bittersweet thing, but it's also, I feel like it's also something that we'll definitely appreciate as we go through this journey because we start to realize, like, thank God we were being ourselves in the beginning. So now that I get to be myself now and reap the benefits of it, when in the beginning it was kind of hard to do that. It was kind of hard to be open and vulnerable with the not the entire world, but in a sense, yeah, with the entire world, because on social media, anybody could see it from anywhere. So even if you have 100 followers or 100 million followers, somebody, due to algorithms, anybody could see it.
And the thing is that not many people know what 100 people looks like.
Yeah, that's true too. 100%.
Like you have 10,000 followers on Instagram.
Yeah.
Put 10,000 followers in a room.
Oh yeah. 100%. You're right. That's why I also always like when I audit streetwear brands for my own shit. I don't only look at their following. I look at the engagement of that following, because a brand could have 20,000 followers and engage like 50% of them, and another brand could have 300,000 followers and engage with like 5% of them. And I don't know what those numbers add up to, but you get what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like it's how tapped in you are to your community, which is the most important part to me. Like we said, building a community of like-minded people because I feel like everybody's at war with something, whether you want to talk about it, whether you want to acknowledge it, whether you want to speak about it, or whatever the case may be, everybody is at war with something. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be with yourself, family. It doesn't matter what it is, but everybody is battling something. And the first step is embracing it, and the second step is putting your best foot forward and really just trying to be yourself through all of it. You know what I'm saying? And I know how hard that is to do on a public scale. You know what I mean? Voicing what's wrong, what we think is wrong with ourselves, and what we like about ourselves, and it's a lot. It's a lot. You know what I mean? It's definitely it's definitely not easy. So, but let me ask you this: if it wasn't for, and I guess this is like a hypothetical question, but if it wasn't for the gym, do you think there would be anything else that, from a hobby standpoint, that would help you really tap into who you are?
Before I even started my social media journey, and do you mind checking how much percentage is on that phone?
Oh, 2%.
Oh shit! Damn. Okay.
But yeah.
All right. I think meditation.
Okay,
meditation
has
always has been something for me that's like very, very woo-saw.
Yeah.
I've kind of learned a lot about myself. I taught a group meditation class. Shout out to Dante and Hillary. We're about to do another one.
Fuck you.
And just I think meditation for me is just like it's a dance between ego and who I am, and it's a dance between all the overthinking that I do and the preconceived notions that I've been placed upon myself. And meditation allows me to just sit with my thoughts and observe them as they go by.
Yeah.
Right? When people think about meditation, they think about, focusing on your breath, but it's more than that. Meditation is a vehicle and a vessel for you to learn about yourself on a deeper understanding. It gives you I didn't know that. Man, I think about this a lot. Yeah. I didn't know that the self-talk that I have is actually incredibly bad for me. I didn't know that I treat myself in this way. So meditation allows me to drive this vehicle and kind of, I'm going past a gas station, which is my negative thoughts. So now I'm looking at it and observing and I'm going past it. And then, I also see a restaurant, but it's also like, this is the way that I treat myself and what I put into my body. So it's like meditation for me is something that gains a deeper introspection and a deeper understanding of who I actually am. Like, who is Avi below the surface?
Love that. That's what therapy did for me.
Yeah. So that's what meditation would do for me if it wasn't all this.
Yeah, I love that.
But this camera's about to die.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys. Thank you,
thank
John.
you, brother.
We're definitely going to do a part 2.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I can't wait. Yeah, 100%. We were just breaking the ice here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate you guys. Where can the people find you on social media?
At John Scafiddi Jr. on Instagram, at AtWarWorldwide on Instagram, and at Scafiddi.studios on TikTok.
It's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys. This is the 1% Podcast. I'm out.
Bang.